Ladies and gentlemen, what if I told you that while you're sitting here right now, God is preparing a moment that will flip your entire life in a direction you never saw coming? What if the breakthrough you've been praying for, crying for, waiting for, is already on its way, and the only reason you haven't seen it yet is because God is saving it for the perfect, life-changing moment? Your delay is not denial, it's divine timing. And in the next few moments you're about to discover why the very thing you thought was working against you has actually been preparing the greatest surprise of your life. Stay here, because what you're about to hear may shift your spirit forever. When you begin to align with your inner spirit, something extraordinary happens long before anything changes on the outside. You start to feel a shift within, a quiet certainty, a gentle inner movement, a sense that life is beginning to respond to you in a completely new way. Wayne Dyer often reminded us that the universe is not separate from us, it is a mirror of our inner state. And when your inner world rises to meet the truth of who you really are, the outer world cannot help but reorganize itself accordingly. This is the birth of divine alignment. It is the moment when your thoughts, your intentions, and your spiritual awareness come together in harmony. Suddenly, you're no longer trying to make life happen, you're allowing it to unfold through you. It's in this space that God's surprises take shape. Most people believe that change begins on the outside. They think a miracle shows up and then they feel inspired. They imagine that a breakthrough arrives and then they gain faith. But the deeper truth works in the opposite direction. The miracle begins inside you first, in the way you perceive yourself, in what you believe is possible, in the energy you bring to each breath and every decision. Wayne Dyer often emphasized that the moment you shift your perspective, the world you see begins to shift with you. You might not notice it immediately. It may start as a subtle sense of peace, a renewed clarity, a whisper of intuition guiding you towards something unseen. But that inner shift is the first sign that God is preparing a surprise that will meet you on the path you're beginning to walk. When your spirit aligns with divine truth, you begin to understand that everything in your life has been gently guiding you toward this moment. The struggles, the delays, the disappointments, the detours, they were never mistakes. They were preparing you, shaping you, and deepening your connection to the source that created you. You begin to see that what once felt like unanswered prayers was actually protection, timing, and orchestration at a level your human mind couldn't comprehend. And as this realization sinks deeper into your spirit, you stop resisting life. You stop fighting against what is. You stop arguing with circumstances. You begin to trust, not because someone told you to trust, but because something inside you knows. This knowing is alignment. This knowing is the space where God works His greatest miracles. As your alignment strengthens, you start to notice synchronicities, those meaningful coincidences that feel too perfect to be accidents. The right people show up. The right opportunities unfold. The right ideas flow into your awareness at the right time. It's as though life is responding to every shift you make internally. And it is. You are no longer operating from fear, doubt, or limitation. You are operating from intention, presence, and spiritual clarity. Wayne Dyer taught that intention is not something you do, it is something you tune into. It is an energy field, a spiritual frequency, and when you align with it, you attract into your life what matches that frequency. In this state, God's surprises no longer feel random, they feel natural. You feel deserving of them, connected to them, in harmony with them. This alignment reshapes the way you interact with the world. You stop chasing outcomes, and instead, you begin creating from a place of inner fullness rather than inner lack. You're no longer motivated by fear of missing out or fear of falling short. You move with purpose, but without pressure. You take action, but without anxiety. You trust in a timing that is wiser than your own. This combination, purposeful movement and peaceful surrender, is the recipe for transformation. It's here that God's surprises accelerate, because you've removed the internal resistance that has been blocking them for so long. Wayne Dyer often described this moment as becoming an observer of your world, rather than a controller of it. And when you observe with faith instead of fear, you become a magnet for divine orchestration. As this alignment deepens, you also begin to see yourself differently. You recognize that you are not a person waiting for a miracle. You are part of the miracle itself. You are not someone hoping for change. You are the instrument through which change becomes possible. You are not disconnected from God. You are connected in every moment, every breath, every thought that rises from a place of truth. This awareness transforms you. You begin to treat your thoughts with care. You become intentional with your emotions. You choose peace even when it's easier to choose frustration. You choose faith even when doubt taps gently on your shoulder. And each time you choose your higher self, the inner alignment grows stronger, and the space between you and God's surprise becomes smaller. State, you start to anticipate blessings rather than fear setbacks. You start to expect good things rather than prepare for disappointment. You begin to understand that your life is not unfolding to you but through you. Wayne Dyer often reminded us that we are spiritual beings having a temporary human experience, not the other way around. When you truly internalize this, you stop looking outside for validation or permission. You start turning inward for direction, clarity, and peace. This inward turn is where God whispers. It is where inspiration lives. It is where the next chapter of your life begins writing itself through you. And with every inner shift, the outer world begins revealing what has been waiting for you all along. The divine surprise, the breakthrough, the blessing, the transformation was never far away. It was simply waiting for you to become aligned with the version of yourself capable of receiving it. Letting go is one of the most liberating, yet most misunderstood spiritual practices you will ever encounter. People often hear the phrase, let go and let God, and assume it means to stop caring, to stop taking action, or to withdraw from responsibility. But in the deeper spiritual sense, and in the way Wayne Dyer taught it, letting go is not abandonment. It is alignment. It is the conscious decision to release your grip on fear, control, and anxiety, so that the divine can move through your life without obstruction. When you let go, you are not giving up your power. You are stepping into a greater power, one that has been trying to reach you all along. It is in this surrender that life begins to transform in ways you could never orchestrate with force or worry. The truth is, human beings are conditioned to believe that control equals safety. The more you push, the harder you try, the more you grip the outcomes you want, the more secure you feel. But spiritually, the opposite is true. The more you cling, the more you block. The more you force, the more you resist the natural flow of your life. And the more you worry, the more you drown out the quiet guidance of the divine. Wayne Dyer often said that everything in the universe has a natural rhythm, a natural intelligence, a natural timing. Flowers don't force themselves to bloom. Rivers don't try to flow. Trees don't strive to grow. They simply allow the intelligence of the source to guide their expression. When you embrace this principle within your own life, you unlock a peace that is not passive, but powerful. It's the peace of knowing that you are supported by a force greater than your limited human mind. Letting go means releasing the illusion that you must make everything happen on your own. It means trusting that there is a plan unfolding, even when you can't see it, even when it doesn't match your expectations, even when it challenges your patience. It's easy to trust God. When life aligns with your desires, the real test is trusting God when nothing seems to be moving, when everything feels uncertain, and when the path ahead appears hidden. In those moments, surrender becomes your bridge to transformation. It becomes the doorway through which the divine steps in. When you let go, you create spiritual space for solutions you haven't considered, opportunities you didn't expect, and blessings that were waiting for you long before you knew you needed them. Surrendering doesn't mean you stop taking action. It means you stop taking action from a place of fear. You replace frantic energy with intentional energy. You replace worry-driven decisions with soul-driven choices. You replace the pressure to force outcomes with the wisdom to follow divine nudges. This shift might feel subtle at first, but it changes everything. Your thoughts become clearer. Your emotions become lighter. Your intuition becomes sharper. You begin to sense when to move and when to pause, when to speak and when to stay silent, when to pursue something and when to release it. You start operating from spiritual flow instead of egoic control. Wayne Dyer described this as moving from the world of physical force into the world of spiritual power. The more you let go, the more you begin to notice signs of divine intervention. Suddenly you find yourself in the right place at the right time. You meet people who bring clarity, opportunities, or encouragement. Ideas appear effortlessly. as though they were placed directly into your mind. Circumstances shift without your interference. What once felt heavy begins to lighten. What once felt stuck starts to move. This is not random. This is the universe responding to your surrender. When you stop resisting life, life stops resisting you. When you loosen your grip, God tightens his embrace. When you release control, you invite miracles. Not the dramatic kind found in movies, but the quiet, gentle, consistent miracles that reshape your everyday existence. Letting go also transforms your internal world. Worry loses its power. Anxiety begins to dissolve. You stop replaying the past and stop projecting fear into the future. Your mind becomes still enough to hear the guidance that has always been available, but often drowned out by noise. You learn to trust the whisper instead of the storm. You learn to follow intuition instead of insecurity. You learn to lean into faith rather than fear. Faith doesn't mean you have all the answers. It means you believe that answers exist, and they will come at the right moment. This faith becomes a stabilizing force within you. It grounds you, it centers you. It replaces the need for constant reassurance with a deep knowing that you are being guided. As you surrender more deeply, you also become more aware of the energy you carry. You begin to notice how fear tightens, how worry constricts, how stress disconnects you from the flow of life. And you begin to notice how peace opens doors, how trust softens obstacles, how surrender pulls blessings into your life with ease. You realize that letting go isn't something you do once. It is a daily practice, a spiritual lifestyle, a way of being. You release your need to control people, outcomes, timelines, and perceptions. You free yourself from the weight of expectations. You give up the idea that everything depends on you. In doing so, you rise into a higher state of consciousness, one that allows God to work in ways that exceed your imagination. And it's in this state of surrender that divine surprises begin to manifest. Not because you chased them, begged for them, or forced them, but because you created the space for them to arrive. When you let go, you show God that you trust Him. And when you trust God, He moves mountains on your behalf. The breakthrough that once felt distant begins moving toward you. The blessing that once seemed impossible becomes reachable. The transformation you longed for starts taking shape in ways that feel natural and effortless. You begin to understand that surrender was not a loss. It was the key. It was the doorway. It was the invitation for the divine to take over where your strength ended and His strength began.